So here's, I'd like to ask you guys this. We're going to transition. This is our last time to really dive into a few things. And we're going to go as practical as I think I know how, centered around habits, centered around commitments. The only way some of this stuff moves from your brain to action to make us more Christ-like is, I think, when you do stuff with it. And so I'm going to try to get us to the best way I know how to move in that direction with our time together. Before that, and I want to start with unpacking some of the habits that I've learned in my life, and then share a little bit of other people's habits, and then get you guys to do some exercise around creating habits and boundaries. When you ask this question practically, how does this look? What questions are on your mind right now? And I've noticed throughout the day in talking with some of you, often someone might come up and go, yeah, I've been dealing with this with my son, and I'm trying to process how this applies to them, or I'm trying to figure out how do I do this, X, Y, and Z. So I don't want to say too much, but what are the questions on your mind right now when it goes really practically, like, how do I start living this out? What are those burning questions on your mind right now as it relates to you or family or however it is? Can we start there? Yeah. Mike's coming right behind you. Yeah, you're good.
How can I influence my grandchildren in this day and age? Because they're on their devices a lot of time.
Yeah. So you've got that thinking right now as you're going, okay, what does this mean for... And is it even specifically your grandkids or how you interact with your grandkids that's on your mind?
That's right. How can I influence them in a positive way?
Okay, great.
To discern properly.
Awesome.
I started by playing golf with him, so that...
There you go. Another one. Yeah. Let's get you the mic there.
How can I avoid falling into idolatry without knowing that I'm doing it?
Yeah. How do you avoid that just natural adoption in a way that isn't being critical and isn't changing you in the way you don't want to be changed? Yeah. Great question. Really good practical question. Another one. Yeah, right here. I got it.
It's kind of related to the first one, but as you mentioned earlier, many of the young generations, including the students I supervised, they're at PhD levels. They still get answers from quick Google searches. Okay, so their knowledge is so shallow and so short in a sense. How do our next generation teach their own kids so that they get solid? I mean, even for science, for that matter, instead of quick. I mean, my kids, they went through reading real books, right? But now everything is electronic. Okay, and how do they teach their own kids? Is one of my concerns.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Other questions? Even concerns are being raised. I'm concerned about this as it relates to technology. What else is on your mind practically? Yeah.
Just building off of what this gentleman said. For me, I always wanted my kids to be readers. And so I put a lot of time and effort into making sure that they enjoy sinking into a book and having that as part of their day. And it worked with my older one. And my younger one, she really likes reading. But what I found was school, when she got into JK, they started to introduce how to use a computer. They had to look up information and come up with answers. And then all of a sudden, that goal that I had with my youngest kind of just flew out the window before I had an opportunity to really nail it down. And so ever since JK, we've been having to keep up with expectations and pressures from outside our home. Yeah. So how do we communicate with our children at that young age that I don't even know where to start with it. Like I really didn't like. I mean, and I know there's a lot of parents that are having to deal with this.
Yeah.
And now Chromebooks are in the school, and just the responsibility of that. So how do you balance that with your own values that you want to hand off to your kids?
Yeah. Yeah, and my wife Karen and I are in the heart of that kind of question too, right? My son's in grade 1.
Right.
My daughter's starting JK next year, right? And so I think we got some stuff to chat through that could help with some of that. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're far. Okay, you want to pass that back? Yeah, we'll do a couple more here, guys. It's really helpful to hear what's like practically on your minds right now with this.
Okay, so how to maintain proper discernment and recognize what is true and what is not.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, that's you got it. Yeah.
Thanks. To oversimplify, you said something about at the beginning about sort of blanket, just get off your phone, get off the contraption, and sort of made a comment about entering into their reality to understand them better. This is where their focus was and everything, and you're just forbidding it kind of. How do you do that when there's a couple problems? Like one is I care about them, but not about say Mr. Beast or building realities in their video games or whatever like that. That's sort of something I don't understand yet. How can I want the connection with them, and I'd even be willing to invest in some of these things, but it's uncountable. So like, where does that start? Where does it end?
It's great.
Like, because if that's the common denominator, we can find something we would connect with, then I guess that's worth the investment, even if I don't care about the thing itself, right? Like,
great.
Then learn that language, whatever that might be. But so I'm still kind of, or do we just hand it over? That's a world I will never understand, and just take the hit and hope that we can find a couple other alternatives. Like
and you have limited bandwidth, right? As a parent, right? You're like, I can't become a Minecraft professional in order to understand my child, right? But there's something you got to do there. I think we should explore that too. If I don't get to it, actually, okay, I'll just say it now. Minecraft. I have to go there. You're smiling about Minecraft. So if you don't know what that is, it's the largest video game in the world for sure. Largest game in the world, Minecraft. And it's where our whole FaithTech team just built a digital platform that looks like Minecraft, by the way, which is super cool. But anyway, it's a digital world where you're creating worlds. You're creating things. You're creating landscapes, and you can play games with them. And there's an amazing amount of stuff that you can do in Minecraft. And oftentimes, parents are like, why are you spending all this time on Minecraft? You're creating imaginary things. What are you doing? It's like they're creating. That's what they're doing. And they're in community with each other. And it's actually profound and beautiful in the sense that God created us to create. And I have this whole thing on Minecraft because I believe that it's the most powerful sign to me that the next generation desire deeply to use their imagination and build new things. And they want to do that in the context of close relationship. So when you hammer them for playing Minecraft, you're missing their whole heart, right? You're missing like what's really happening. So what I would say is like play it a little bit, realize it's complicated and your kids are super smart, and then realize that what's at the heart of this game is God built within them this desire to create and build new things. And so engage in that and then look for ways still outside of that to take that creative mind and the desire for community and show what's possible in the way that you can do that in the world to advance the gospel. You know? It's like video games, right? All of video games get hammered so often, but the idea there is that at the core of almost every most popular video game is you're trying to go after conquering the evil power, okay? Winning the battle, right? Capturing the evil character and saving the girl, and you're trying to do all this and you're doing it in a digital space. That's the entire Great Commission. You go into the world, okay, and defeat this evil one. Has been defeated by Christ, and I want you to live out in a way that is a battle taking place in the spiritual realm. And go build a community of people that will live sacrificially for the name and fame of Jesus Christ. And like that calling pulling out of them and showing that this is an unbelievable challenge. There's nothing like it in the real world of building a community of people that love Jesus sacrificially to live out the gospel in a world controlled by the devil. It's the best game you'll ever play, right? And so to understand the way the game works is to really understand also the heart that sits underneath the individual playing it. And to just say, stop doing that, you've communicated the opposite of everything I just communicated without knowing it. And that's why it's so important we engage and try to understand some of these really big things that our kids, the next generation, are playing with, because I view it in a different light. I think there's some incredibly beautiful things. But then with those younger generation, be like, oh, there's this beautiful thing you can create in the world and have an impact that you can't even explain when you're older, because it's so beautiful and profound. And that's living this radical life for Jesus Christ. Anyway, I think that's the best game in the world. So how do we get to that? Oh, Minecraft. Thanks for that question. Appreciate that. All right, we're going to keep. Let's jump in here. So, thank you for those questions, everybody. And I think this question is now like, how do we live for God in this digital age? And really practically, what does this look like? One preface to this, I'm going to go through. I think I have 7 practices that I have in my life. Some of them I'm doing great at, some of them I'm struggling with, and I'll tell you which ones. And these are a structure of the way I'm trying to live my life in this digital world. After that, I'm going to share with you actually a list from Andy Crouch on the way he's trying to live in this world as well. What I want to say before this is I want you to, for this last half hour, 45 minutes, is I want you to, when we're trying to build practically this structure of how we live our life in this digital world, I do want you to think for a moment how to do it for yourself. The majority of what I heard with those questions, and this wasn't intentional to pull that out of you and then turn it on you, was how do I get for other people a healthy boundary? Or how do I get the next generation or somebody else to get right and understand the way this world works or not be corrupted by technology? And that's not bad. Like, I'm thinking about that constantly for my kids as well, right? But here's the absolute best thing you're going to do to show all those people how to live, is that you figure it out yourself to the best of your ability. Grounded in Scripture, grounded in the way of Jesus, is that you model a really beautiful, healthy way of life in this digital world. Because what you do is going to have more impact than I think what you say in this world, in this context right now. And so figuring out how you're going to do it, I think my belief is that when you're starting to figure out how that looks for you, there's going to be a natural outflow to those around you. You're going to start thinking differently and apply it differently. So I'm not worried about that second piece. I'm really concerned about how we can get that structure. So my hope here, and the last thing is, as I go through these are the things now, if you haven't done any writing, which is cool, this is the time. I really need you to write down, because after I go through this whole list, I'm going to give silent space for us to actually build our own digital rule of life. And we're going to make a series of commitments. Might be 1, might be 5, might be more. And then I'm going to call you to bring accountability into that and trial and test a few things out in your life. And so as I go through these, you're going to want to, I would encourage you to take some of them down, because then you can remember them as ones you potentially might want to adopt. Okay, the first one is starting your day in quietness. This is a really practical piece that you might already do or might not. Starting our day in quietness is really the antidote to exhaustion. It's the antidote to access. It's an antidote to hurriness. It's the antidote to workaholism. This is a practice that I think is extraordinarily powerful and important that we look to adopt. In this world of technology, as we've talked about today, if you haven't figured this out yet, you've probably noticed we live in a really busy world, right? So many demands pushing us to do more, we put people on a pedestal and we're like, how do they do it? You know? And then we realize it's like, so I know there was a connection between Elon Musk and me at one point along the way. And the reason I think I heard that and I was like, oh no, was because Elon Musk, we look at and we go, wow, he's brilliant. Started all these amazing tech companies that are revolutionizing the world. And his family life is a complete disaster. Complete disaster. So I look at that and I'm like, that's not a model of life. You can accomplish all these things, but it's like, if you also can't be faithful to the fundamental things God calls you to, like if you make a commitment to have a family, that's where I'm looking first, right? And so the temptation, though, is to look at that and go, I want to be that, I want to accomplish those things, and it's exhausting, and it's tiring. And if we don't, on a daily, regular basis, have a moment of rest, a moment of quietness, to reorient our hearts for the day of what God would have for us, I think we're going to get into that cycle and we'll miss. I want to read to you Matthew 11. Jesus says, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. The Message, this is a translation, almost like a commentary of the Bible. Eugene Peterson says it this way, reflecting on those passages. Are you tired? Worn out? Burnt out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take real rest. Walk with me. Work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn how to live freely and lightly. Isn't that beautiful? Adopt a practice in your life of quietness. Maybe that could be really hard for you, and you're like, I'm going to do 2 minutes. If I can get 2 minutes in a day, that's my goal. Maybe you can do an hour, maybe you can 2. Maybe you need to walk and get somewhere to do that. But start your day early, before you pick up your phone. 70% of people now 70% before bed, 60% of people now within 5 minutes of waking up will check their cell phone. And you're like, no way that's true. That's a wild statistic. So statistically, that means I might check my cell phone before kissing my wife good morning, right? And just think of how that orients my day or starts my day. So we put our cell phones to bed. We put them on a different floor in our house. You tuck them in. I'm like, tuck in, sing a little song. No, I don't do that, but that would be weird. But we have a station. We put our phone, not allowed phones in bedrooms in our house. No technology in phones should be just a standard. Like having a screen in your bedroom is just flat out a really bad idea because the temptation's so strong and can distract you. And a bedroom is a place of rest. And technology's built to pull you away from rest and get you to engage and entertain. So I strongly encourage that. But yeah, starting your day in quietness can be a really beautiful, wonderful practice. The second one is a rhythm of rest. So this is the digital Sabbath idea, coming back to it. If I said that, and when I was like 1 day a week for 1 month without any digital technology, and you're like, that's impossible, like that's you. Like, you got to write this one down. And this is where alternatives kick in. So if you are going to do that, you've got to set up your day. You know, you got to go somewhere, go to a park, like figure out how you're going to create that day, doing hard work. The thing that we've lost with a really rule of having a Sabbath, like a full out, I don't do any work for 1 day. What we've misunderstood is it does take work to do a Sabbath. You got to prepare. You got to make food. You got to figure out what you're going to do on that day. And so that's why, to me, the 6th day is like you're getting stuff done around the house and you're preparing and you're making food and you're getting ready for that day of rest. So there's work to be done all around it. But then that rest is designed to bring us back to God and remember who's in control. Right? Because that's the other thing that's really difficult, can be difficult with technology, is it's a constant reminder that we're in control. Because we dictate what we do with so much of technology. But that's why having a moment, a pause of rest on a regular basis, is reminding you're not in control, and reminding ourselves that God's in control. And that's why having a very specific amount of time that's put aside for rest is deeply important. And this has been a practice for Karen and I. Yeah, talking about this one, this is one, by God's grace, when I started doing the digital Sabbaths, my whole mentality towards technology shifted. Even to the point now where it's like, I'm now on the other side. I'm like, where's my phone? And I'm like losing it all the time and stuff like that, which has been beautiful. I've personally really enjoyed it. But now I've had to, like, when I started that, I had to communicate with people. I was like, hey, heads up, you can't get a hold of me tomorrow. I'm not available. Or like, hey, if there's an emergency, you can call my neighbor and they'll come get me. Or there's somebody else that'll like come get us. And people are like, that's too much work. Like, what if something happens? You'll be okay. We'll be fine. The rest is more important than the one instant that might happen. You know, we've got to be able to value rest for our bodies, for our minds, especially in this time when the demands are so pressure-filled. Number 3, have a focal practice. I mentioned the name Albert Brueggemann earlier. He talks a lot about this idea of a focal practice. And really what the idea of this is that you do something that takes you outside of time for a moment. So what I mean by that is, for me, that's playing piano. I'm not very good at piano. If you're like, where are the chords? I'm like, I don't know chords. I just make stuff up, you know. And I have this thing, it's a weird thing, but like as I'm playing, other instruments can like come into my mind. So I'll for like 10 minutes play the exact same thing. And then eventually my wife's like, you got to stop. She's like, you just played the same thing for like 15 minutes. I was like, but there was a symphony in my mind. And she's like, I didn't hear it. You know. So anyway, headphones. That's why we recently got headphones. So that was good. But like for me, when I play piano and I'm just creating stuff, I'll suddenly forget what time it is. I'll be like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's around me. Like, I don't know what time it is. I'm not thinking about responsibilities. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just playing. And it's a really beautiful experience for me to play. And that moment, that focal practice, a focused thing I'm laser focused on where everything kind of disappears around me is really, really beneficial for our bodies and our hearts. So what is that thing? And if that focal practice is something that is actually like pulling you away from losing time, or that's genuinely giving like rest and fulfillment, that's not a focal practice, right? And so picking things, like I know some people, they'll be like, I do a 15-minute walk a day. You know, and I'm just like walking and I'm like specifically looking at things and trees, and they'll just have this moment where they're losing track of time, or playing an instrument, or building something, or creating something, you know? One of the best phrases I once heard was, it's a Jewish proverb, and it says, those who work with their hands should Sabbath with their minds, and those who work with their minds should Sabbath with their hands. Isn't that beautiful? Meaning, If all day you're typing and you're on the phone and you're online all day, Sabbathing by continuing to be online all day may not be the Sabbath that you need. That's not going to perhaps give you the rest. But going and like building a birdhouse, which you might have no idea what you're doing, can be really restful for your body. And if all day you're building and creating and working with your hands, reading a book in the evening can be a really beautiful thing for you. Okay. Turn off the internet at night. We talked about this one already. This is the antidote to anxiety, the antidote to FOMO, fear of missing out. This one is, this one is a tricky one. Really practically, you can buy devices that help you do this. Karen and I, we own a product called CiC. You may have heard of it. We bought it before we had kids because its whole advertising is like, get this device that helps you control how all of the technology is being used in your house. So the idea is a parent can manage how technology is being used, particularly with their kids. But we were like, we'll need that down the line. We need that now. And one of the benefits of CiC is you set it up and it turns off the internet. One of the things it can do is turn off the internet. It can also limit how much Facebook time you have or limit how much time you get on certain things. And so we share the password. So I have to ask for permission to go on the internet past a certain time. And this one has been the hardest one for me by far. I struggle. One of my areas of struggle is in working. Just working way too much, way too late. And when I start working late, two things happen. Distraction increases, and that can lead me down a different path. Mr. Beast video. But then it can also, I just keep working, and then my work suffers. Like if I'm working at midnight, the quality is not the same, right? And then what does that do? I get tired the next day. And what impact does that have? Okay, I'm not as alert and not as focused with my kids in the morning. And my responsibilities at work are not being taken care of at the same length. And that's because I didn't take care of my body the night before and I didn't get the sleep that I needed. And all these things can tie together. And so for us, Karen and I were like, man, this is a focal practice that we need. And so you can do that. There's multiple ways. If that's something of real interest, you can just, there's back to Google. You literally can just turn off how to turn off my internet at night. There's a bunch of different methodologies, but you can buy products that can help you with that. So definitely encourage that. That one's that is countercultural. And if you're thinking that's crazy, that's too far, again, you should do it. Okay, next one. Rule number 5. A no phone allowed meal and evening with someone. Okay, so what I mean, that's a weird way of saying what I'm trying to say, actually, now that I reflect on it. What time did I write that? No, I'm just kidding. Is that having a regular practice, and this was very hard in COVID, but having a regular practice of eating a meal with somebody other than you or other than family, and then have a policy in the home with them to be like, hey, just so you know, this is a no phone night. So come on over. We're going to have a little basket in the front. Throw your phone in. Hang out with us all night. And then head home after the meal or after the evening or something like that. Maybe it's just a meal. But it's a practice. That one to me is definitely the antidote there is a couple things. One, it's so easy to think that having a meal, just you or your family, every night all week is normal because culture tells you that is. But to have people in your home is Jesus, the Jesus way of life. And so that can get abused, and you're having people in your home all the time. I rarely see that as much as I see, like, we just don't have anybody in our home. And that's how unbelievable community actually takes place, is inviting people into our private homes and exposing them to the way of our life, which is also very hard. And then, eating the meal together, that's just, God just made us to eat. So I think that's why I threw that in there. And then this is tied to community. So one of the antidotes to keeping secrets, which tie to technology, is very easy to do, to keep secrets. You can do all sorts of stuff online that never get caught with. and that can be completely damaging to your life and your relationship with God and others, is the only antidote I know of with keeping secrets is by bringing somebody into that life in a really beautiful, profound way. Confess our sins to one another, Scripture talks about. And so that one there, I would encourage you as a habit, just pick like one family or one individual that you want to bring over, or make like a commitment. 1 month, one Wednesday a night, we're going to have somebody, I'm going to eat a meal with somebody else. And I'm going to do it in a way that's technology free. That'd be really beautiful. I think this is my last one, is regularly text a word of encouragement. So we got to trial that earlier this afternoon. Thanks for doing that. I hope that was helpful. I hope that person, maybe they saw that text yet or the message you sent them. It's really powerful to do. And this is a great practice. This is a practice I have on a very regular basis, just a simple word of encouragement to somebody in my life. And the stories I hear back, just yesterday I texted a guy. I was driving, and he just came to my heart. So I voice messaged my phone. I said, hey, text this guy this word. And it was just like, hey, I just thought of you while I was driving, and I took just a minute to pray for you. Not sure what's going on, but love you. That was it. He comes back, and he's like, I've been in and out of the hospital for the last 3 weeks. I'm struggling with all this stuff. My wife's going through this. My son's going through this. And I was like, I didn't know any of that. I didn't know those details. And all I did was a text message of encouragement, And he's going, wow, someone cares about me and loves me. And that was a simple leveraging using technology with a loving heart. Okay, cool. So those are the kind of some of the ones that I'm working at and have in my life. I want to walk you through really quickly. These are the book TechWise Family. He starts out with like 10 commitments he's made. Some of these I find really useful. I'm not going to go into all of them. And then I want you to jot down the ones that you think are really helpful and useful for your life. So these are commitments you would make that help you live a countercultural life in the way of Jesus in this digital world. And then we're going to start actually building our own together. So he says, this is commitments he's made us, his family. We develop wisdom and courage together as a family. He talks a lot about that as this overarching theme for his family, and they put it up on walls and things like that. We want to create more than we consume. So we fill the center of our home with the things that reward skill and active engagement. This was really powerful for me. When someone comes into your home and they come into your living room, what do they believe is the God? Now, you don't have to answer that. But in most living rooms in our culture, there's a big thing up on the wall. That everything is centered around the furniture, the experience of engaging with that piece of technology. And what you're communicating to anybody that would come into your home is that's the centerpiece. We shift our rhythms of life around this technology. And what I would encourage you to do, and if that's any word of conviction in your heart, not by what I'm saying, but the Holy Spirit's speaking to you right now, is rearrange your house. Like move technology to the outside, into different places, so that it doesn't have the center piece of your house. Physically, move things around. It helps. It's like if there's no potato chips in the house, I'm not eating potato chips, When they're there, they're gone, So what we see, we got to move things around because the physical impacts the experience that we're having. So that's a really good point he makes, and that's how we've created a lot of our living room and our house, and I learned that from Andy Crouch. We are designed for a rhythm of work and rest. So 1 hour a day, 1 day a week, and 1 week a year, we turn off our devices and worship, feast, play, and rest together. Love that one. We wake up before our devices do, and they go to bed before we do. Put them to sleep. Sing a song. We aim for no screens before double digits at school and at home. So this is like, what he's getting at with double digits is like, before double digits is like, I think he's getting at 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. I think that's what he's getting with double digits. I can't even remember now. I know that structure, though, what he's getting at specifically is like we have set times to which we engage in our screens. We use screens for a purpose, and we use them together rather than using them aimlessly and alone. Right? This is why I would say having technology in a bedroom fosters individual use of the technology and pushes up against the purpose of that space. So having purpose with the technology we use. I love this. Car time is conversation time. So for him, he tells a few stories in the book where they're just like, yeah, they don't put music on, they don't listen to podcasts, they talk, hang out, sing. I'll never forget, I had a colleague before FaithTech that always had on something. So as soon as she got into her car, there was music playing. As soon as she got home, there was podcast or music playing. And I remember asking her once, like, hey, when do you not have something going? She's like, never. I was like, what do you mean never? She's like, there's always something that I'm listening to or playing or hearing at all times. And so we got into this conversation about identity and purpose and like what you actually, like, what are you scared of when you can't have nothing for a moment? Spouses have one another's passwords, and parents have total access to children's devices. Yes, I have a sheet with every password to everything I have for Karen, my wife. She can access whatever she wants, whenever she wants it. And parents definitely should have access to all their kids' stuff. That narrative is extraordinarily important in communicating to the kids. Why, though? It's not like because we want to domineer and own everything. It's because your parents love you. And they're like, you don't know the whole world yet. You can't be exposed to certain things at certain times because it'll just destroy your mind. You're not ready for everything yet. It's a dark place to live. And so like being able to guide a child through how to learn with devices and access media is just a good parent, man. It's a good parent. We learn to sing together rather than letting recorded and amplified music take over our lives and worship. We show up in person for big events of life. We learn how to be human by being fully present at our moments of greatest vulnerability, and we hope to die in one another's arms. That's such a cool picture. You know, I once had my pastor tell me, he said, anytime you feel like you should be at a wedding and a funeral, go. Always sacrifice for a wedding and a funeral. Even when you're like, oh, I don't know if I should be there, just go. Because those two moments in someone's life are so profound, and the families surrounding those, that what it speaks to that person is incredibly important. And sometimes just being present in the biggest events of our lives is extremely, extremely important. Okay. That was a lot there, guys, but here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to give us all probably about 5 minutes. It's just going to be quiet because I was like, oh, should we put on music and play guitar? And then I was like, oh, I just said that. So just going to have like 5 minutes of silence, you know? And they'll be like, you'll hear little things, and that's okay. And if you're like, this is really hard, like we're 3 minutes in, you know? Then you're like, I know which habit I need to write down. Here's what I'm asking you to do right now. In these 5 minutes is take the ones that I described, the ones I read here, process new ones for yourself. You know, between God, the things that you're struggling with, the things that are temptations for you, the secrets that you're holding, the things that are distracting you, the things that are not Hebrews 12, that are not helping you run with Jesus or be more like Jesus or fix our eyes on Jesus, whether it's a sin issue or not. You know what those things are. And if you don't know what any of those things are, that's a great concern for your heart too, because we're all sinful and we're all doing things that are against God and each other. And so that would be an arrogant check in your heart as well. I had that when I was like 19. I remember a moment I was like, oh, man, what are people all struggling with? Like, I'm doing great here. And some dude was like, wow. He's like, you're so far from great because you don't even know it. And I was like, wow, that's true. So anyway, that's a check for some of us maybe. Make at least one commitment. Write it down, circle it, highlight it. You got to pick one that you're going to try. The second thing to that commitment is you got to put a time on it. Okay, I don't want you to be like, for the rest of my life, every day, I'm going to spend an hour quiet with Jesus. Don't do that. Okay? Make it time-bound, because I want you to try it. At least one commitment, if not more. Make it time-bound, so put a date beside it. Literally be like July 2nd. Circle it. And the third thing we're going to do after that is we're going to get somebody to hold us accountable to it. That person may not be here. They may be here. But I'm encouraging you, if you want to start moving towards practice with this stuff, and I really hope you do, is that you're not, like, I give you a 2% success rate on your own. No, I give you like 60% with somebody else. 70% with 3 people. Hey, I don't think, though, the returns diminish if you get like 100 people. So just a handful of people, at least one person. So at minimum is one commitment, time-bound with one person that you're going to ask to hold you accountable to it, to talk to you about it, to keep tabs on you on how you do it. As we write these, please do not look around at the things written beside you. I really encourage that, because I'm hoping that we go to a level with our heart that leads to transformation. And for some of us, that's really dark secrets. And so don't look at what things are written beside you unless you're invited to do so. And then we're going to come back in 5 minutes, and we'll all take up what we wrote. No, I'm just kidding. Of course not. That'd be horrible, eh? Yeah, you all pass it around. And then I'll speak them from the microphone. And then we're going to actually take time to pray over those things. I'll pray from here, and that's going to be our time. So 5 minutes of quietness, and then we'll come back together to close. And just a quick note, if you do have something written down, or 3 or 5 things, and you're like settled on that, just invite the Holy Spirit. Take time to pray. And just pray and say, Holy Spirit, help me, guide me in this practice so that it helps me flourish in your name in this world. Thanks. All right. Well, thanks, everybody, for the day. I'm just going to close our time in prayer then as we finish up. Lord, thank you for this time. Thank you for the day that we could have together. And I guess, Lord, we just take this thing that we committed to, this person that we committed to sharing it with, and the heart that sits behind it, and the struggle that sits behind it, or the desire of change that sits behind it, and we just open up our hands. If you want to join me physically, I'm all about the physical expression of how we're feeling. I'm just opening up my hands. And so we just come surrendered to you with our hands open, Lord, and we surrender, knowing that we are not in control, and that it's so easy to put self first in this world. And we desperately need you, Jesus, by your power, by your authority in our life, to become more like you in this world, Lord. So guide us by your power to live in this world as Christ followers that is sacrificial in everything we do. I love you, Jesus. I love you. Amen.